Maggie Thatcher, can you hear me? Maggie Thatcher, your boys took a hell of a beating. Your boys took a hell of a beating from Maggie Thatcher.
Call a taxi for the Tories, call a hearse for the Labour Party, who found themselves humiliated at the ballot box in a crushing defeat, the likes of which have never been seen before. England.
Oh God!
Scotland.
Oh God!
Wales.
Oh God!
Every corner of Britain has seen the wholesale mass exodus away from Keir Starmer's calamitous austerity enthusiasts that we expected to see. Even major cities have seen huge chunks of red ink wiped off of their maps overnight, and consequently, several MPs have already called for the Prime Minister to step down. It's safe to say that while last night was bad for the Conservative Party, for the current government and the Prime Minister, it was nothing short of an existential disaster.
Oh no!
But where did all those votes go, and what do these results mean for the future of politics in the UK? Are we witnessing a permanent shift of party preference coming from the public? Will Starmer be able to cling to power, or are the metaphorical knives exiting their sheaths as I speak? Let's see what's happening. The good! Despite reform successes, the local elections in England were a rip-roaring success for the Green Party, whose membership numbers and polling figures continue to skyrocket.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
The results in the English council elections have seen record gains for the Greens, and the fact that party leader Zach Polanski was only elected 8 months ago makes this series of incredible victories in these elections all the more remarkable. Amongst the sensational results, the Greens now have not one, but 2 mayors in London, winning in Hackney and Lewisham respectively. They had other successes in several wards in the capital, and here in Manchester, while only a third of the available seats were up for grabs, they won the vast majority of them, with vote shares surpassing the 50% mark in areas such as Piccadilly and Moss Side. Elsewhere in the north, the Greens also scored a mouth-watering 65.2% in Bradford. That's around 4 times more than the Reform candidate in what has to be the biggest success for the city since Joe Johnson battered interesting Steve Davis in the 1986 World Snooker Final.
Nice.
While there are still a couple of councils yet to declare results at the time of recording, they have over 550 councillors in England, which has quintupled their number, and even in seats where they didn't quite edge to victory, they've laid down a very firm marker as contenders in every corner of the country. Amid other interesting outcomes was control of Norwich Council, which the Greens managed to gain control of, pipping Labour to the finish by just 3 seats.
Jurassic Park.
There was also an immense amount of satisfaction in seeing a complete collapse for the Labour vote. Starmer's toxic presence was the main thing that came up as canvassers faced total rejection on the doorsteps, and, as predicted by socialists around the nation, their vote share completely tanked, with almost 1,500 of their councillors now finding themselves out of work. One of the most satisfying examples was Carlotta Allam, who, despite Labour's despicably tasteless attempt to smear her online, helped hold the Greens to victory by a nose in the Brixton Windrush ward, where Labour had enjoyed control since time immemorial. Another result which raised a smile was one where a complete coward who was representing Labour shamefully switched seats to what he considered to be a safer area in anticipation of a complete drubbing. This proved to be a futile effort though, as he still lost out to the Green candidates.
Yeah, we've had the first big shock result from here in Camden. The leader, or who was the leader of Camden Council, the Labour leader, has failed to win a seat. Richard Olszewski had actually swapped seats. He'd done what critics and even some in his own party called a chicken run by abandoning his seat in Fortune Green in sort of the West Hampstead area, the kind of north of the patch. And he'd come down to stand in Holborn and Covent Garden because that was seen as a safer bet. Now, he hasn't lost to the Lib Dems, but he has lost to the Greens. The Greens have taken all 3 seats in that ward, and it means that now former leader of Camden Council hasn't got a seat.
Whole councils were lost by Labour, and in Wales, for the first time in a century, the Senedd is now without a Labour leader, as Plaid Cymru picked up the lion's share of the vote, though falling just short of an overall majority. So dire were the results for Labour, though, that the Welsh First Minister Ellen Morgan lost her seat and looked completely devastated during her resignation speech. There were also other losses in Holyrood, where they lost 4 seats, but despite the SNP faltering slightly, they were still by far the best performing party. There were small gains for the Scottish Green Party as well, with them now having 15 seats. Fortunately, like south of the border, the population mostly saw through the snake oil salesman's vibes emanating from the right-wing reps on the doorsteps in Scotland.
I think I can smell shite.
But wherever you live, the "we told you so's" are ringing out loud and clear. No fewer than 30 MPs have already called for Starmer to step down, including Louise Hay, and while that might not be the 172 required to trigger a vote of no confidence just yet, it's certainly clear that the blame is being put firmly at Starmer's feet.
But the message has been clear from the public that unless the government delivers significant and urgent change, it's clear that the Prime Minister cannot lead us into another election.
The door is open and you can leave.
That's just one of many clips that's now coming back to haunt Keith yet again, now that the two-party system of the past is evaporating at an exponential rate. The Mandelson/Campbell "who else are they going to vote for" mantra is unravelling before our very eyes, and you do have to say that they thoroughly deserve it. What goes around comes around, and in terms of karma, watching the man who sabotaged the Labour Party from within all those years ago finally getting his comeuppance is undeniably satisfying.
Smug mode.
The bad. Yes, I know that denial isn't just a river in Egypt, and though we at My Left Eye remain firmly socialist, the success of Reform plc in the English locals can't be ignored, and should actually, in fact, be very concerning for anyone who's into loony lefty ideas like a public-run NHS and the existence of a minimum wage. They gained over 1,000 councillors, and it's sad to see that many towns here in the northwest now find themselves in possession of a lot more snake oil than they had 2 days ago. Places such as Wigan, Bolton and Oldham on the outskirts of Greater Manchester saw a surge in teal across their maps, removing incumbents from Labour and the Tories, but also leaving many places under no overall control. With Reform's current appalling record in councils they've previously won, mixed with their inability to cooperate with other parties, those areas are now unfortunately left with a recipe for disaster. Sadly, the phrase "turkeys voting for Christmas" has never been more fitting than it currently is at the moment.
It's just bad, let him lie in it. Let him lie in it.
The threat from the far right is now unfortunately very real at both a local and national level, and we have to acknowledge that. Hopefully though, this shift will spur anyone who doesn't want to live in a fascist dictatorship into action, whether that's at the ballot box or on the streets. We have a unique opportunity now, and the choice is clear between xenophobic grifters looking to fill their coffers with public money and something genuinely progressive that can bring real change for the working class families struggling at the moment. Speaking not as a party member, but someone who's voted for the Greens multiple times before, and as a lifelong socialist, this is the binary selection that we realistically have at the next election. We know that neither Labour nor the Tories have done nearly enough to keep reform down, and have, if anything, accelerated their current rise through 16 years of austerity-based oppression, disastrous immigration policies and failed attempts to outflank Farage's party on the right. We'll only get one shot at this, and if we don't take it, then even I dread to think what this might mean for the future of the UK. I really do. Another thing that's now increasingly apparent though is that the old ways, and indeed the old parties, are now hearing a very loud death knell ringing in their ears.
Damn right!
The future. I mean, I could go into all sorts of detailed stats from the results of all 3 domestic nations to demonstrate how things are now, without doubt, over for the two-party system of the past, but one simple chart says as much as I ever could. None of the so-called establishment or legacy parties finished in the top 2 in these elections. Reform and the Green Party clearly made the highest gains, and in fact, if these results were translated into a general election result, this is what we would be looking at, and Farage and Polanski would be having it out at PMQs every week, while Labour, the Tories and Lib Dem watch on from the side benches for most of the proceedings. The whiff of delusion still lingers strong in the air though. In the Tories' case, they've actually considered a loss of 563 council seats to be a pretty good result for Kemi Badenoch for some reason, and where Foreign Secretary David Lammy is concerned, watching the Greens stomp all over Labour's majority in Haringey, which is in his Tottenham constituency, seems to have only given him more confidence in defending his seat at the next general election. There's delusion, and then there's this. Even the interviewer from Politics Joe couldn't believe what he was hearing while Lammy buried his head firmly into the sand.
I can 100% tell you, knowing my seat as I do, that there is no prospect of the Greens taking my constituency.
Pull the other one.
David Lammy probably hasn't seen this estimate for how things are set to turn out in his Tottenham seat either. This foreboding projection also acts as a fitting summary for the duo of parties who've been swapping places in office for the last century or so, barring the odd ill-fated coalition here and there. Those times now seem to be over, not just temporarily as some kind of collective protest against establishment parties, but there's now nothing left to convince the public that any combination of red, yellow or dark blue rosettes in power will yield anything but the same neoliberal trash that most of us have lived for under our entire lifetimes at this point, and the word enough has now truly come into effect. Reform, the Greens and possibly Restore or your party now seem to be the only political vehicles that voters are looking for. There are also increasing calls from many organisations for the House of Lords to be replaced with a Citizens' Assembly, and that sentiment also doesn't look like disappearing any time in the near future either. Younger generations, including those who voted for the first time this week, are rejecting the old school firms in ever-increasing numbers, though that's not exclusive to that demographic. While older generations are still mostly voting on the right, they're now also switching party allegiances for the very first time. At a council level at least, I hope they soon realise the error of the ways in areas where reform prevailed on Thursday. Bankruptcy, corruption and all manner of sordid crimes have caused many of their existing councillors to be forced to resign in the short time they've held office, and I won't be surprised to see a lot more of that happening with the current lot they've just added to their ranks. For example, as I'm recording this very narration right now, no fewer than 3 of the people who only won on behalf of Reform a day and a half ago have already stood down. One for unknown reasons, one because of, you guessed it, criminal charges, and this guy who seems to have only put his name down for a joke and has now left the country to go on holiday. With any luck, those voters will soon lump Farage into the never bloody voting for him again category and see sense and actually vote for the right kind of party for once. Please.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I want to finish on a high though, and one thing that was high was the turnout, which was actually quite far above the average for local elections. This is actually a good thing, and it shows that a lot of people are ditching the they're all the same philosophy and feel that voting can make a difference, and it can, as long as they're voting for a genuinely socialist party like the Greens instead of just the same old recycled Tories. Generally speaking, the higher the turnout, the better the left-wing parties tend to perform, so in terms of the rate of ascendancy, the Green Party still have the upper hand by far where that's concerned. Reform may have had the better share of success this week, but are actually on the wane at a national level, and at current rates, by the time of the next general election, we'll see either a neck-and-neck battle or in fact Zach Polanski edging in front of the Furage in the race for number 10. So stay positive, people. Socialism is back.
If these trends continue, hey!
What do you make of how things turned out in the Council, Senedd and Holyrood elections? Are you feeling more optimistic or pessimistic about the future based on these results? Let us know in the comments below. As always, your feedback's very welcome. Thanks a lot for watching to the end of the video. If you'd like to help the channel out a bit more, then please check out some of our other content and hit various supportive buttons such as like and subscribe. Super thanks are also open, and there's a link to our Buy Me a Coffee page in the description of this video. If you want to go a step further, then hit the join button, and for only 99p you can enjoy exclusive perks like members only videos and early viewings, plus lots more, and you get to join the list of awesome people that you can see on your screen right now. As always, your contributions are much appreciated. Thanks again, people. My left eye will be seeing you soon.